Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily live show from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you've got any questions throughout the session, please leave them in the comments of the live feed and we'll try and get and answer any of your questions as we go. If you need any more advice, then please join the official QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. There's accountants and business owners in there on hand 24/7 to share their expert advice and knowledge. During the live session, we'll be running a poll, so please do engage with that. And at the end, I'll reveal the results for you. My name's Johann Goree. I'm the Managing Director of OnPoint Accounting Group. We're an accounting group of accounting firms and bookkeeping firms across the UK that are out to help small businesses to thrive through this time of challenge. So I wanted to talk to you today about how we're going to manage and lead our employees post-COVID. So when I was last month, we spoke a lot about how we're going to prepare for reopening and relaunching our businesses, and the focus was very much about the health and safety, risk assessments, and how we're going to look after our customers. But one of the interesting conversations I've been having with quite a few businesses over the last few weeks is how they're going to manage their employees and how they're going to lead them after COVID. There's been a huge change in how we do many things in business in the last year because of COVID. So papers and articles are coming out saying that business is now 5 years ahead in terms of technological embracement and adoption. We're certainly seeing a lot more clients who would never have Zoom meetings with us. They weren't face-to-face meetings. They've embraced Zoom. We're seeing a lot of clients that have always been quite happy just plodding along, not knowing what their cash flow is and not knowing what their books look like on a weekly or monthly basis. They now want to know, and they're using the tools and softwares like QuickBooks to be able to help them do that. But what we've also seen is a kind of advancement in how we lead and manage our employees because it's been forced upon us. So working from home, those of us that have studied management and leadership will know that working from home was expected to become a big thing over the next 5 to 10 years. Generation X were coming through from school and into employment, and they were expecting more flexibility and more openness towards their working locations. And what the next generation coming into the workforce expects generally is something that the previous generations would think of as nice to haves, but not key and vital. But actually what's happened in the last year is most of our employees have had that flexibility. They've had the flexibility of working from home. They've had the flexibility of their working hours within certain areas. So for example, a lot of the teams within the JDBC, Brighter Future accountancy firms, those that OnPoint own and run, all their teams have been working from home and they've all been flexible working. So they've worked hours around family life so that they could do homeschooling and stuff like that. And you know what? The sky's not fallen down. We're still running. We're still keeping everybody happy and delivering all the deadlines we need to deliver. So flexible working can work. But what's really interesting at the moment is we're seeing a lot of articles and surveys of business owners asking, are they going to go back to pre-COVID ways where everyone has to work from the office, you have to work a 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, etc. Or are they going to continue with the adoption of this flexible working process and be flexible towards working locations and also their working hours? Now, in some industries, I completely and utterly understand that flexible locations and flexible hours isn't going to work. If you run a restaurant from 8:30 till 9:30 and the tables need waiting and serving, you can't do that from home, and you can't choose when you will or won't do your work. But there are some other roles and businesses where flexible working and working from home is going to be a real viable option. So it's going to be interesting to see how many people continue post-COVID with the new changes we've seen in the last year, and how many will revert back to pre-COVID rules and processes, basically. What we have actually seen for some of the restaurants and shops that we work with is they've actually decided to reduce their office spaces. So we've got one client who's got a restaurant. They're quite a big restaurant, and they've got office spaces where their managers and supervisors have worked from in the past. What this restaurant's going to do is taking down the walls of some of these offices. So they're going to have less office space. They're going to encourage their managers, etc., to work from home part of the time, and then have office days when necessary and walk the shop floor, as it were. But then, with the extra space they've created from taking out these walls, they're going to increase their cover numbers. So they're putting in extra tables to take up the space, which is a really good idea. So they're actually increasing their revenue potential by doing this. What I would say is, if people can work from home, let them. If they can't, because you need them to be sat on a checkout or serving tables and stuff, absolutely fine. But take into consideration who can work and when. And because I know when you speak to a lot of employees, some of them will want the rigidness of 9 till 5, Monday to Friday in the office, and that's great. But others are really embracing this work from home attitude and the flexible hours that come with it to help them at the moment with homeschooling and stuff. But the flexible hours could be hugely beneficial outside of COVID as well. And I think what we're going to find is people that like the new work from home, flexible hours attitude, they're going to actually start moving from companies that won't allow that to companies that will. So I think what you'll find is if you don't adopt the more modern approach of home working, flexible working, and your competitors do, then you might start losing out on some of the talent within your industry to those competitors, if that's what the talent is looking for. So definitely worth having a think about how you're going to work moving forwards. Can your business continue as it has done through COVID with these new approaches to leading and managing your team? Or will you be reverting back? And if you are, does that put you at risk of losing some of the talent and struggling to recruit in the future because that talent's going to go to your competitors? And while we're on the subject of employing people and leading them and managing them, there's been a really interesting debate in the news over the last couple of weeks, I'm sure you've seen, with the 1% pay rise for NHS workers. Now, I don't want to weigh in on this and say yes or no either way, but what we're also seeing is a huge uptake across firms in the national living wage. So the National Living Wage Foundation looks at where you are based, and it works out the average living wage that someone requires to be able to afford to live and work in that area. So in London, it's a lot higher than it is in other parts of the UK. But what we're seeing is people that are a member of the Living Wage Foundation and they commit to delivering the wage of a Living Wage Foundation. So in our area, it's £9.50 instead of the minimum wage, which is something like minimum living wage, which is something like £8.51, I think, off the top of my head. People employees and talent in your industry are seeing this difference and seeing this commitment, and it's actually leading to better recruitment opportunities for the employers. So your business will get a wider range of applications for job roles, etc. If you are offering the living wage and you're certified and you're committing to that through the Living Wage Foundation, then you would be than your competitors are. So if you're looking to get a slight edge over your competitors to get better talent into your business as we rebuild our business post-COVID, there's going to be a lot of competition for high quality workers in most industries going forwards, hopefully. So have a look at the Living Wage Foundation and see if that is something you can afford to commit to. There's a lot of businesses out there that are already doing it. So, for example, JGBC, one of the firms we own, they were already committing to delivering national living wage at the foundation rates, but they weren't certified. They weren't registered as doing so. So what we've done is now we've applied and got the certification for that. So they now have that registration, and they're now formally delivering that wage rather than just doing it anyway, which has helped them with their advertising for jobs, etc. We get a much higher quality of talent now and a much higher volume of applications as well because of it. So there's a couple of things there for you to think about. How are you going to lead and manage your team after COVID with your flexible working and working from home options? How can that then benefit you increasing your shop floor space, your restaurant floor space to increase sales? And also have a look at your approach towards recruiting talent after COVID to make sure you're set up to get the best applications possible. So let's move on to some questions. Okay, we've got one from Raquel on Instagram DM. Good morning, Johann. How much does it cost for an SME to outsource their payroll? I've just started my own company and hope to be able to hire someone within a year. Okay, well, first of all, Raquel, congratulations on starting your new business. Very exciting times for you. Cost for payroll will vary. So some firms will charge you a fixed rate just to deliver payroll, regardless of how many employees you've got. Other firms will charge you by payslip. So they may charge £5, £6 per payslip. That could go higher, it could go lower, depending on where you go. And some firms will charge you for a bracket of employees per month. So they might charge you for 1 to 5 employees is X amount. So it doesn't matter how many employees you have, as long as it's between 1 and 5, you pay the same amount, which gives you a bit of growth and a bit of flexibility without the price changing every time you take on a new staff member. But ask around your local accountants and bookkeepers. And most accountants and bookkeepers provide payroll now, or they have someone that they can outsource their payroll to. But I would say the average payroll is between £5 and £6 per payslip at the moment. That's what we're seeing in the industry anyway. So I hope that helps. Okay, we've got a question from Duncan from Twitter DM. We're hiring for rapid growth startups. What are the areas to focus on for evaluation apart from the skill set match and the job role? Okay, so I'm not a huge believer in qualifications. I'm very much a believer in attitude and the employee's approach to learning. Sometimes it's easier to start with a blank slate than have people with bad habits or have fixed views from their qualifications. So we quite like the apprenticeship schemes where you can take someone on, you can mold them, you can train them in how we do things, and they can get qualified as they go. So I put a lot of emphasis in our interviews and processes on attitude and aptitude, and just working out if they're going to fit with the team. So we involve them when someone comes for an interview. They get someone from the team will take them to get a coffee rather than just sitting in the waiting room waiting. And they have a bit of an informal chat. We have a team member sat with us on the interview panel, so we can get an idea of whether they're going to get on with that team as a group and their attitudes and their personalities. So that's our focus when we're looking to recruit, is how will they get on with the team? We can teach them everything we need to teach them about QuickBooks or bookkeeping and accounting. That's not an issue. But it's really hard to teach someone who doesn't get on with the team and they aren't a team player. So that's our focus on that. So I hope that helps, Duncan. We have a question from Miria. Apologies if I've mispronounced that. Hi, Johann. Do you have any clients who have had success in employing remote teams and getting the right talent for the business requirements? I have a team of 10 people and we can all work from home. but I'm struggling to do interviews on Zoom. Okay, so we do have a lot of clients, including our own firms, that have interviewed and taken on team members that we've never met. For example, JGBC has got a head of accounting bookkeeping, lady called Jade. I interviewed Jade on Zoom 2 years ago now. Never met her in person yet. We were due to meet in person at QuickBooks Connect conference last March, but COVID hit. But she's an absolutely fantastic team member, absolutely vital. We took her on as a bookkeeper. She's moved her way up to the head of accounting bookkeeping. She's brilliant, but I've never met her in person. It's all through Zoom and phone calls. So it's important to tailor your interview questions to Zoom and the environment you're going to be interviewing in on Zoom. But it is certainly possible to recruit the right talent for your business in a remote method and to manage and lead them remotely. So yeah, just have a look at your questions you're asking. Have a look at what you're trying to establish from the Zoom interview, and see if there's anywhere you can improve that. But it's definitely possible for you to do that. So I hope that helps. We've got a question from Igor on Twitter DM about the Living Wage Foundation. Do you think it can be an attractive thing to show that you have when employing people? We already pay over the living wage for all roles. So Igor, sounds like you're in exactly the same boat as JGBC were. They were paying above the living wage for all of their roles. So we decided to get them certified just to see if it made any difference when we did let's go around to getting people looking for new employees. And it really did. The quality and the quantity of applications we had in our latest recruitment drive compared to previous ones was much, much better. And the only thing that had changed really is our living wage status. So our industry has not really been impacted by by COVID and job losses. A lot of our competitors, etc., are still recruiting as well. So if anything, our talent pool should have been reduced or stagnant. It shouldn't have been a case that we'd got a bigger increase in job applications, but we did because we were seen as the culture that you set from being a living wage foundation member. It shows your commitment to the culture and your commitment to your morals and ethics, that you believe people need to be paid more than a minimum wage. So I think it's a really positive thing to have. I think it's something like £70 a year to be a member. You get your badges and you get a wall plaque and etc. So I think it's really positive to have it, and I think Igor, you'd benefit greatly from it personally. That's my experience. Okay, we've got more questions coming in. So we've got a question from, again, apologies if I mispronounce this. I'm not very good with names. Deborah Slav from Instagram DM. What is employers' liability insurance? What is the difference between employers and public liability insurance? Okay, so if you have public liability insurance and a member of the public comes into your shop, for example, they fall over because of a wet floor and they injure themselves, that's what your insurance company is going to pay out and cover you for. If you only have public liability insurance and an employee falls over because of a wet floor and injures themselves, they won't be covered by the public liability insurance. So you have to have the right insurance for the right individuals. So you should have, if you've got staff and you run a shop, for example, which the public come into, you should have public and employer liability insurance. They both cover you for things very differently. But basically, you'll need the right, if you've not got employer's liability insurance, you won't be covered when your staff have injuries or any other instances that require a claim on the insurance. And I believe it's now the law for you to have employer's liability insurance if you have employees. I could be wrong there, but I'm fairly sure that became a mandatory law. It's a bit of an unknown fact from what I remember reading on it. So make sure you get the right insurances. To understand the real nitty-gritty and the differences, have a chat with an insurance broker. There'll be plenty on Facebook that will be willing to explain the true differences and what each one covers. But you definitely need both if you've got employees and you've got a shop where the public come into. So yeah, definitely have a look at that and get some detailed advice from an insurance broker. They're great for this kind of thing. We always pass our clients on to insurance brokers if they need insurance, because they've got the detail, they've got the knowledge to go through and understand it all. So I hope that helps. Right. We've got another question from, again, apologies for if I mispronounce this, Amajet from Facebook Messenger. Hello, I'm a first-time employer and I'm currently in the planning phase of expanding my team. I need to hire 3 to 4 people. What are the legal requirements and responsibilities I must fulfill when hiring staff? Okay, so there's a couple here. One is employer liability insurance. So you need to get that sorted out and get yourself some quotes for that and sort all that out. You need to pay them. You need to have them on a payroll. You need to give them, before we even pay them, we need to give them a contract of employment. And they should have that really before they start the role. If not within 4 weeks of starting the role, they need to have a contract of employment. The FSB have some great templates for contracts of employment. Otherwise, approach your Chamber of Commerce. They might be able to help you. Or there's lots of HR firms that are out there that will help write contracts for you. You then need to give them a regular payroll, whether that's weekly, fortnightly, monthly. That's down to your business to decide. But as part of the payroll, you also need to provide a pension through auto-enrollment. So there's lots of providers out there that will do that for you. I know QuickBooks payroll software will talk to Nest really nicely, just because we've been using that recently ourselves. But there's lots of other auto-enrollment pension providers like Now Pensions, Smart Pensions, etc. So have a look around, see what each one offers for auto-enrollment, and get that set up as soon as possible so it's ready for your first payroll. Then the main key areas I'd focus on when you're taking on your first employees: your contracts, your insurance, how are you going to run your payroll, and your auto-enrollment responsibilities. So if you get those 4 right, you're fairly covered. But definitely worth having a chat with a HR expert about the ins and outs of employing people. Your responsibilities as an employer become a lot more serious once you go past 4 or 5 employees, because you have to have documented risk assessments, you have to have document policies, etc. We had those in place from day one because we knew they were important, regardless of how many staff you have. We felt it was right to have those policies and risk assessments in place. But there's a bigger commitment once you get over 4 or 5 employees. So definitely worth talking to a HR expert on that, whether that's from somewhere like the FSB or a dedicated HR company. They'll be able to help you, I'm sure. Our next question is from Pluto from Facebook Messenger. Hi, Johann. We have a small app development firm made of 2 founders and 3 developers. We're now looking to get at our go-to-market strategy and planning to hire about 10 more employees. My question is around setting up the right payroll infrastructure. How should we go about it? So if that's referring to how you pay your staff, you need to have GDPR compliant payroll software. So for example, if you use the payroll in QuickBooks like our team do, you'll be able to run your payroll in QuickBooks. Your staff will get their pay slips through an app on their phones and through logging into a website. So it's all GDPR compliant. You don't have to email out pay slips like the old days and hope that no one guesses the national insurance number or the date of birth that you've decided to use as the password. So you use QuickBooks, you run the payroll, the payslips go out, and it covers all your legal compliance side of things. If you're talking about pay structures, etc., then the only advice is that I can give you is have a think about it as a company, how you want to pay, what benefits each job level comes with. So I'd advise breaking your team into different tiers and having different benefits for different tiers. Whether that's a different rate of pay, different holiday allowance, different sick allowance, different travel allowances, different expense allowances. Think it all through from the beginning, because once you put that in place, you really need to try and stick to it. So software-wise, I'm going to assume you're using QuickBooks because you're on this live feed. QuickBooks payroll is fantastic. It meets all your GDPR compliances, issues, and it is very slick and easy. It makes it very quick to run your payroll. It automatically reports all your payroll figures into your accounts, which is nice and easy. And your team have got this employee app they can access to get all their stuff in. So from that side of things, great. But then just plan and try and plan for the future, kind of what tiers you want, what benefits you want for each tier, and how you want to look after your staff at what point, basically. Just try and plan ahead for that. That's really important. So I hope that helps. A message in from Lina from Twitter DM. What do you think leadership teams can do to stay ahead of the curve and be attractive to job seekers? So much has changed in 1 year. Lina, it has. So I'm a chartered manager, so leadership and management is what I specialise in. And it really has changed in 1 year. We've seen enough changes in the last year to keep us busy for the next 20 years. As a leadership team, the thing that's really important to employees is ethics, morals, and culture. Pay rates are less important now. So we've gone from where the first thing you try and look for on a job advert is how much am I getting paid per hour, or what's my salary, comparing those. That's what everyone used to compare straight away. Whereas now, people are using social media, the internet, etc., to research your firm and your leaders. So employees or prospective employees are looking at the name of the company and its brand and its culture. Is that somewhere that you want to work? Is that somewhere that I want to say I work for so-and-so and be proud of that? They are also looking at how they instead of just looking at the brand and the company name, they're looking at the leadership on LinkedIn and stuff as well, and trying to work out, are these people I want to work with? So yeah, it's all about culture, ethics, and morals at the moment, Lina. And hopefully, if you have a look at that, make sure you're communicating you're explaining what you're trying to do and communicating it well, you'll get some really good applicants. So I hope that helps. We are running out of time, so I'm going to have to move on, I'm afraid. So we did our poll. The poll results are in. We asked you, have you ever sacrificed anything for your employees? And 100% of people said no. So I suppose what's interesting here is it's quite an open question. Have you sacrificed anything for employees? And you might have sacrificed a couple of hours of your planned day to cover them so they can go to the doctors. And some people will see that as a sacrifice. Other people will see it as a normal, just part of being a leader and a manager. So it's very much open to interpretation that way, that question. So it's interesting that 100% of people said no, though. So thank you for tuning in. And if you want to contact me and ask me any other questions or talk to me about cultures, morals and leadership, etc., please feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm Johann Goree on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much the only one out there. So feel free to have a search and connect with me and ask any questions you want. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Anne-Marie Martin, who is the founder of Diddy Dance funky preschool dance classes for boys and girls across the UK. This is her first appearance on the show. She has grown the network to over 40 franchises covering over 50 territories from Glasgow to Plymouth. Anne-Marie loves sharing her franchising journey and growing a network, so please tune in and listen in and ask her any questions you've got about your franchising opportunities, etc. there. And tune in to get any advice on leading a team for a pandemic. That's what she's going to be talking about tomorrow as well. Don't forget to join the official Into a QuickBooks SMB group on Facebook. I'm Johann Goree, and thank you for coming today, and have a great day.